Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. Idaho is a big state and it covers a lot of territory. Idaho Matters wants to take you to every corner of the Gem State by visiting all 44 counties, and we need your help to do that. Email us your story ideas at idahomatters@boisestate.edu for our new series we're calling Idaho 44. And be sure to join us each weekday at noon and 8 on Idaho Matters and travel the state with us. From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. This is Idaho Matters. What if gravity isn't just holding us down, but shaping our minds and bodies in ways we never imagined? Dr. Brennan Spiegel's new book, Pull, explores how gravity impacts everything from our posture to our mood, and how building gravity resilience could be the key to better health. We're lucky enough to have Brennan joining us now to talk more. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
So, Pull presents a really bold idea that gravity impacts not just our bodies, but really our emotions and our health. So what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, the inspiration actually came from a personal story. It was my mother-in-law who was unfortunately dealing with cognitive decline. And I found that she was spending a lot of time lying flat in bed. And about the same time that she started changing her posture, she started developing abdominal issues like bloating and GI issues. And I happen to be a GI doctor. And of course, my family asked me, what can we do? And I started to realize, we're not designed to lie flat all day. We're designed to be upright. And so is all the inner parts, the gut, for example. And so that sent me down a rabbit hole trying to understand more about that. And I ended up writing a paper about this that got worldwide attention about gravity's effects on the gut. Then I realized this is a lot more than just the GI system. Every single part of our body is managing this fundamental force from the moment we're born to the end. And the better we understand that relationship, the better our health can be on this planet.
In fact, you're really connecting gravity with mental and physical health in your research, correct?
That's right. That's right. It's all connected. You even think about the language that we use. I'm feeling high. I'm looking up. I'm feeling down, right? Depression is almost as if there's too much gravity on your body. Can't get out of bed, exhausted, hunched over, slow. And when we're ecstatic, we feel high. But it turns out these are not just figures of speech. These are not just metaphors. There's an intrinsic verticality to our neurobiology. And the research on this is really overwhelming. And there are parts of your brain that are there to manage the force of gravity and interpret it. And there's really interesting evidence that anxiety and depression may be in part a consequence of misperceiving the force of gravity itself.
Okay, so talk about then this idea of gravity resilience, because you write about this in the book. What does that term mean? So let's start there. And then why is it so important?
Yeah. So gravity resilience is just like it sounds, your ability to stand up and stay up and thrive under the force of gravity, which is always pulling us down. And so our goal in life from the beginning is to do just that, to stand up, stay up, and thrive under its influence. And we do that in a few different ways. One way is through our inner hydraulics. We have pumps and tubes all the way down. Right now, you're listening to me and you're talking to me because your brain is getting oxygen and blood. That is the part of your body farthest away from the floor. Unless you're in an inverted yoga position right now, you're relying upon your inner hydraulics to get that blood pumped up to your brain. That's just one example of how all these different intricate mechanisms in your body are working to do that. Then, of course, there's the muscles and your bones, which are suspending everything upward. You need to have strength to stand up. And then it even gets more involved because within your body is all this connective tissue. And this is where your structural support within your body needs to be intact. And some people get really dizzy easily when they stand up, get lightheaded. And in some cases, it has to do with the structural support systems in their body not managing gravity correctly. So those are just a few of the ways, among many others that we talk about in this book, where we manage gravity.
So you mentioned anxiety and depression and how that plays a role in gravity. Can you talk a little bit more in depth about that? Because I'm thinking
Mhm.
about when you if you've ever talked with a person who's dealing with anxiety or depression, in depression in particular, they'll even say things like, I just not only do I feel down, I feel weighted down, right? Like it's hard for them to physically move through the world sometimes.
You're right. It's a literal physical embodied experience. It's not just mental. The mind and the body are all connected and intertwined. Now, think about if you've ever been on a roller coaster for a second.
Hmm.
When I go on a roller coaster, like most humans, when you go down that drop, your belly starts to light up. You get these butterflies, as we call them. And that's kind of exciting for some people. Why do you get butterflies when you're literally falling, when you're falling
Uh,
down? And by the way, you also get them when you're falling in love. And this is interesting. It turns out we think that that's a one way your body is telling you that you're at risk. Like we're not designed
huh.
to fall 15 stories. We never evolved for that. It's like our gut has a G-force accelerometer in it that's telling us we're at risk. And it turns out my patients who have, let's say, irritable bowel syndrome and anxiety do not like going on roller coasters because they feel those gut feelings all the time. It's like they're experiencing a metaphorical fall. They're not literally falling. The brain is interpreting their life as if they are in descent. And it comes out in the form of butterflies and belly aches. And anxiety is, in a way, a neurovisceral fear of falling all the way down. And depression is having fallen. You made it to the ground, and there you are, literally weighted, metaphorically weighted.
So you bring together physics and
Mm-hmm.
medicine and mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So was it challenging or is it challenging to blend those fields not only into a coherent narrative, but really in a way that the average person can grasp this and understand it?
Yeah. So, physics came first, then biology came second. We often look at our physical body without thinking much about the physics that underlies the body. But now some scientists are using this phrase, physics is the new biology. If we go back to the fundamental forces that shaped us on this planet, we are surrounded by only four fundamental forces, and of those, really only three affect us: electromagnetism and gravity, and then there are these nuclear forces, which we won't get into. But gravity is a big one. And it's as
Hmm.
if our body evolved to take the physical phenomena of our universe and our world and encode them through the nervous system, through the senses, and compress the information of our world into a coherent story. And we are sense-making machines of our environment. So, gravity was here long before the first signs of life. It will be here long after we're gone. So it stands to reason that every part of your body, every cell, every sinew, every muscle, every bone evolved to manage this force. And when we look at it that way, all sorts of things start to come into very clear view. And that's really what this book is all about.
Oh, and when we think about gravity, or I have to be honest, I mean, I've never thought about it that much, right?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people are probably in that category, but it really is in a lot of ways the life force that keeps us all upright, that keeps us all, moving, etc.
Yeah, we are almost like a fish is to water. The fish is shaped and formed by the aqueous and buoyant environment around it, but I don't think fish are
Hmm.
spending a lot of time thinking about the water that they are designed to survive and thrive through. That's like us in gravity. In fact, when our ancient ancestors came out of the water, which was this buoyant environment, gravity hit us head on. And we had to create all these systems, pumps and tubes and hydraulics and muscles and bones. which, fish had too, but we had to get a vestibular system working so we didn't topple over. All of that had to work precisely. And it turns out a lot of conditions that afflict humans are problems with gravity management. I mean, what is low back pain, if not a form of gravity management, or dizziness, or a heart failure, or
Hmm.
swelling in your ankles? And then what can we learn from astronauts who are in microgravity orbit who also have lots of issues, it turns out, that can help inform our life back here on Earth? So it really opens up a whole broad vista of opportunity.
So, does this change how we should start thinking about things like, our own posture? I mean, even, everybody's into standing desks these days, or things like sleep, because I mean, we all sleep lying down.
Well, you're on to two great points. I'll go in reverse order. So,
Okay.
sleep, it looks like, evolved in part to help us perfuse our brain at night. When we, lived up in the trees, we were mostly upright. And at some point, we got smart enough to be able to lie on the ground and defend ourselves against predators. We had fire and we had communities, and we could lie then safely and peacefully flat on the ground. And it turns out, evolutionarily, that's about the same time human intelligence exploded, when we would basically reboot our brain overnight by perfusing our brain with oxygen and blood and flushing out amyloid, for example, which we know can accumulate and lead to dementia and Alzheimer's, which may be one reason why sleep is so important, is it just flushes out the brain at night, literally. So sleep is possibly a way to manage gravity so that we can recharge during the day when we're upright. Now, the other point is about standing desks and what we can do during the day to fight back. So I always use a standing desk. I also wear a weighted vest every day I'm at work. I wear a 20-pound weighted vest, and I wear 20-pound ankle weights on both of my ankles. So I actually walk around with 60 pounds weighted on my body under my clothes. And I use a balance board when I'm standing at my desk. And all of that combined helps you fight gravity in a way that also leads to passive metabolic work and even weight loss just by standing there fighting gravity without even having to try that very hard.
Okay, I'm glad you brought all of that up because I don't feel as out of place because I'm one of those people that I wear, I have a smartwatch, I count my steps, and I make sure I get those 10,000 steps, but I also make sure I close all my rings, the standing ring. I wear a weighted vest every time, like I'm out walking.
Oh, great.
I just, but I do all of that just because I like to do it. And I'm also a huge advocate of sleep. I think sleep is so incredibly important. I don't think we get enough of it in our culture. So, with all of that, how much does our modern lifestyle make us vulnerable to gravity's negative effects? Because I don't think most people are like you or like me, and you take it to a higher level than even I do.
Yeah, well, you have an intuitive sense of gravity. You know that there are health benefits to these practices that you're doing every day. And one other thing you probably do is make sure you drink enough fluid, because if
Oh,
you
I
don't
drink so
drink
much
enough
water.
water, yeah, and there's a reason we need our inner pumps and tubes to fight gravity all day long. And there's actually evidence that if you don't drink enough water, then salt levels will go up in your body a little bit. And that alone is associated with a shorter lifespan. It is also associated with Alzheimer's disease. If you have bouts of orthostatic hypotension repeatedly over your life, not getting enough blood flow to your brain, you're not fighting gravity enough. And so all of a sudden, when we look at all through gravity, it's like, oh, wait a second. So this is why exercise works so well for almost everything.
Mm.
This is why we should sleep a lot. This is why we need to drink a lot of water, and so on and so forth. And, we talked about mental health at the beginning, but that's the whole other domain of this. Anti-gravity meditations. We use virtual reality with our patients to imagine when they're in the hospital floating up into the sky, and then we see their cortisol level changes and their heart rate change and their breathing change and their body change. You can also visually imagine fighting gravity, not just physically fight it. So yeah, this is the book kind of covers all of this, and importantly talks about, well, what do I do about it? I can't leave planet Earth. Well, maybe some people are
Mhm.
these days, but most of us are going to be stuck here on Earth. And what do I do about it? And does it matter if I go up into the mountains or down at sea level? There's so many questions that it opens up.
So, what can someone do in their daily life to become, using that term, gravity resilient?
Yeah, well, we've hit on a few of them, and gravity resilience, in my way of thinking about it, has a few different components, and I won't go into too much of that detail right now, but there's, kind of physical, and there's mental, and there's neurological. And in the book, there are some self-assessments that you can do to figure out which of those three components you need to work on first. And a list of over 50 different activities, and we've covered some of them, the obvious ones today, like sleeping and drinking of enough
Hmm.
fluid, and pumping your legs if you're going to be on an airplane because you get blood clots, and that's gravity intolerance, for example. If you're in the hospital, getting up and moving and walking. If you're sick, don't just lie in bed all the time. Get up and move your body. It actually makes it worse to just lie there in bed. And then, even beyond that, diet and serotonin levels in the body, which we didn't touch on today. Serotonin, it helps you manage gravity too. The microbiome in your gut produces serotonin. Even the foods you eat can help you fight gravity better.
What surprised you, if anything, during the research and the writing of this book?
Yeah, what surprised me is how many people have been thinking about this, but it hadn't been woven into a singular narrative. And it turned
Hmm.
out, after I published my first paper, people all around the world, not just, everyday people and patients, but people who work at space agencies, other, physicians, PhD neuroscientists from all around the world came to me by email and said, "Oh my God, I've been thinking about that. And have you seen this paper and that paper?" It turns out there's thousands of papers written about this. It's just been almost like a secret underground line of inquiry that hasn't been brought to the surface.
So, do you think Paul could eventually shift how doctors even approach care, or even how patients, view their bodies, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think both. And in the book, I describe what I call biogravitational medicine, BGM for short. And maybe this is just to get my physician colleagues excited, so it can sound a little technical. But I think it's time to have a biogravitational medicine clinic. It turns out most of the things we're talking about are already part of everyday medicine. Some of them are even billable. So for, business models to develop these clinics, it's all
Hmm.
very possible. But the idea would be a much more holistic view of medicine rather than having one doctor see this condition and another doctor see that condition through their own lens. We take a step back and we see something broader, gravity intolerance. And it affects multiple parts of the body in many different ways. And when we look at it that way, we can really change how we think about physics and biology and fundamental health practices that we can use to survive and thrive on this planet.
For folks who pick up your book, what is a takeaway? Just one message from Paul. What do you hope it is for readers?
I think I want people to validate what they already know, that uh, they feel the force of this planet. It's obvious, but let's pay closer attention to that force, just like a fish in water. We have the mental capacity to realize that we are in a field that formed us and shapes us and determines our health and well being. And that simple mindset can unlock a whole set of practices and justify them so that now people aren't just doing things because somebody told them it's a good idea, but they inherently and viscerally understand and literally feel the embodied effects of these practices on their health. And hopefully, this can change how people think about their bodies and minds.
I have to say, I so appreciate the conversation today. It has been so interesting. Thank you so much for taking time for us.
Well, thank you as well.
We've been speaking with Dr. Brennan Spiegel about his new book, Pull. It explores how gravity impacts everything from our posture to our moods. It will be out in October. You've been listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Gemma Gaudette.